Hi, this is my first ever how-to video. I'm Lolly Peterson, and my website is lollypete.com, and that's where I have all the wreaths that I sell if you want to buy them. You could also make one of your own, like what I'm going to show you right now, if you'd rather make it yourself. So I'm going to show you how to make a burlap candy cane wreath. I get this candy cane frame from the Dollar Tree, and these 2 rolls of burlap are from Walmart, but you can get it from Hobby Lobby. Michael's also has rolls of burlap, but they're a little bit shorter. So I think they're only like 5 inches. So these are 5.5 inches by 15 feet, if you can see that. So I use 2 rolls to make a candy cane wreath. Let me straighten that out. So it is a total of, let me do the math. It's 10 yards. Okay, 30 feet, 10 yards of burlap ribbon, 5.5 inches wide. Sometimes it comes in 6 inches wide. That works too. So I'm going to get started and show you how I do it. Some people do it differently. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is take the wreath frame and I'm going to flip it over so that I'm looking at the part that goes in, like the concave part. So this is the back. I'm going to take the roll of burlap and I'm going to put glue at the end of it, just halfway across, and fold it. Okay. So that's the only thing I glued, just the end, and folded it in half. Okay. And I'm right-handed, so I move the burlap to the right side. And I'm going to start at the long end of the cane. And there's a first wire, the second wire, and at the third wire, that's where I'm going to stick my burlap and go under and come back up. Okay. I'm going to put a line of glue there. Okay, and then I'm just going to fold this over. So if you hold it for a couple seconds, that should stick. Okay, now I'm going to flip it over. So this is the front or the top. Okay, so this is on here. As I weave the burlap through this wireframe, I'm going to try to keep it folded. Obviously the end of it's not folded, but as it comes up, I'm going to try to keep it folded in half like this. Some people, when they weave their burlap through, they just kind of weave it through and don't worry about that. It doesn't matter either way. So I'm going to pull this up. It makes a loop like that. And the loop is about, you could say like 2.5 or 3 inches. I would say 3 inches is too much. So maybe 2 to 2.5 inches tall is how tall this loop should be. So it went through there, and now I'm going to pull it up through the last space. Okay, so I have 2 loops at the end of the wire frame, about 2 to 2.5 inches sticking up from the frame. Okay, I did not pull a loop up from the first space on purpose. You'll see why later. It really doesn't matter. Okay, so there's the end. I'm going to kind of take this a little bit and twist it and go back to the first space and pull it up. So now I do put a loop in the first space. And then I'm going to pull it up again into the second space, pull it up again into the third space. So with my left hand, I'm just kind of holding everything together while I'm using my right hand to pull up the loops. So in each section, you can see there's different sections here and then they break. In each section, I'm putting 2 rows of loops. Okay. So I'm done with this section. I'm going to move on to the next section. So I'm going to twist it a little bit and bring it up to the first space. Pull it up from the second space. Pull it up from the third space. Okay, and I'm just kind of pushing it that way, pushing it to the end. Same thing again. So it's like a zigzag pattern that you're weaving along the frame. So I'm going back to the beginning here, pulling it up. 1, 2, 3. So that section is done. I have 2 rows of 3 in this section. I'm going to move on to the next section, the next 2 sections. If you're doing this and you don't like the way it looks, or you think you're not doing it right, it comes right out. You can just pull it right out and try it again. And you can also pause the video or fast forward it if you already know what you're doing. Okay, so in this section again, I did 2 rows of 3 loops because there are 3 spaces. Now I'm going to go back to this last small section here. Let me put that down so you can see that. Same thing again. Pull a loop up from the first section, the second section, the third section. Now I'm running out of burlap ribbon here, so I'm going to glue this to the other roll that I have. So what I'm going to do is just spread just a line of glue across the burlap ribbon. And I'm going to take the other end that I was using and just lay it on top and hold it there for a little bit. And if they don't line up exactly, or one is a little bit wider than the other, that's not a big deal. It works. It'll work no matter what. Okay, so now I can keep going. So I have 1, 2, 3. I need 3 more to fill up the space. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, and I am getting a little bit sloppier and I'm not folding it as nice as I was over here, but that's fine. It's gonna work no matter what. Now when I get to these curved sections, I'm actually gonna have to do 3 sections instead of 2, or 3 rows of loops instead of 2 rows of loops. So I'm gonna go up here. That's 1, 2, 3. That's the first row. Start again. 1, 2, 3. That's the second row. And I'm going to do a third row. One, 2. I'm not going to put a loop in the third space because it's getting kind of tight in there. So I'm going to leave that alone. I'm going to go to the next curved section right here. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And then same thing again, I'll just do the first 2, not the last one. That's in the innermost part. So 1, 2, and leave that one alone. Okay, I'm just going to turn this a little bit. So if you're not comfortable one way, you can always turn it another way. And I'm just doing the last section. And remember, those short sections just have 2 rows of 3. So 1, 2, 3, and that should be just enough with the burlap that you have left. 2, yep, that's what I have left right here. If you don't have enough for the last space, it's not a big deal. If you have too much, you can probably pull some back and make some of these loops bigger. Okay, so I'm going to flip this over, and here's the end of it. So I'm going to do what I did last time, and I'm just going to put a line of glue on half of the end and fold it in half. Some people like to attach the burlap with pipe cleaners or wire. I like to do it with the glue. And I'm going to tuck it under this wire. And put a line of glue there, just like I did in the beginning. And fold it over and hold that for a couple seconds. Okay, so when you flip it back to the front, if you like the way it looks like this, keep it like this. I like to actually fluff it out. So it's not going to be folded in half anymore after I'm done with this part. This is what I'm doing. Okay, so I like to start from the inner part of the candy cane. And all I do is I take the folded loop and I pull the ends away from each other. So I'm going to do that all along the inside of the cane first. And just pull that out. Just to make it look more voluminous. I'm going to tilt my, there we go. That's straighter. Okay, I think I skipped one. Okay, so I fluffed it out along the inner part of the candy cane. Now I'm going to fluff it out along the outer part, the ones that on the outside of the candy cane. So I'm just taking both ends and pulling them apart so it's not folded anymore. Okay, and I like to do the middle section last because I can pull from the ends and make the middle part fluffier. So that's why I leave the middle part for last. And I like how it fluffs out diagonally and not straight, but you could always turn it in whatever direction you want. Sorry about the dead airspace. I had Christmas music on and my husband stole my Spotify. Or else you would hear music in the background. So you just keep fluffing it out. And it does not have to be perfect because you're going to end up adjusting it little by little anyway. Okay. So that's a little bit fluffier. Okay. Now I don't like the way you can see the end of the wire frame there. So I usually take the loops that are at the ends and I fold them over and I glue them down, just a little bit of them, just a little piece, so that you don't see that wire from the front. So you just need a little dot or a little line of glue and cover up part of the wire or all of the wire. If you don't mind it, then don't do this part, but I mind it. Okay, so that covers that up at the bottom, and I'm going to do the same thing at this end. So I'm going to flip this part over. Just a little dot of glue. And cover that up. Okay, so if I flip this over, it's not perfect, but I can keep messing around with it. And I'm going to make a bow. And when I usually place things on the candy cane wreath, I usually place it across from where the curve ends. So about here is where I glue whatever I want to glue, like a bow or a flower or whatever you want to add to it. So I'm going to move this over so that I can make a bow. I got this ribbon at Sam's Club. You might be able to find it there, or you can get any ribbon you want. This ribbon is 2.5 inches wide. And I'm making this bow according to what one of my friends showed me how to do it. Miss Tammy, thank you very much. But there's more than one way to make a bow. So again, if you don't like the way I do it your own way. I'm pulling out a long piece of wire. This is just wire from Walmart. It's floral wire. You can get it from the Dollar Tree too. I actually like to fold it, take a long piece and fold it in half. I would say about 1 foot long. So I'm going to just set that aside. Then I'm going to take the ribbon and I'm going to make a little loop. Okay. And then I'm going to fold it. So I made a little loop with the ribbon. I folded it back over. Okay. Now I can't do this because then I see the back of the ribbon. So what I actually have to do is twist here and turn it so I see it right side up again. Okay. And this is supposed to be longer than this. This is actually going to be the middle of the bow, like that. Okay. I'm going to do the same thing again, twist and make a loop. Okay. Same thing again, twist, make a loop. This might not look very pretty the way I'm doing it, but it'll work out. I hope you can understand what I'm doing. I'm twisting. I think I'll just do one more set of loops there. Twist it. I'm always twisting in the middle. So you always have to keep holding it with one hand. And I'm making all the loops about the same size. Okay. And then for the tail, I am going to pull out a long piece. So a really long piece like that. And bring it back up. This I don't have to twist. And my tail is going to have, well, this is kind of long. My tail is going to have three ends. So that's how I want it. So I'm going to hold this here and cut. Cut the end of it. And I can also cut this end. That's going to be the end of my bow. It's going to have 3 tails. Okay, so this is the part that I'm still holding if it hasn't unraveled on you yet. Good for you. So I'm going to take my wire and I'm going to lay it over top of where I was holding the bow in the middle. And I'm just going to pull it really tight and try to squeeze it as tight as I can and twist it in the back. So I usually twist it 3 or 4 times. This is what the back looks like. This is what the front looks like. And then you can kind of figure out how you want it. So I just fluff it out a little bit. This is wired ribbon. The wired ribbon goes where you want it to go. If you get ribbon that's not wired, it just kind of flops. So there's my bow. And then the tails, I'm just going to pull down. And again, because it's wired, you can manipulate it a little bit better. And put it where you want to put it. Okay. And I do want to line these up and make sure that they're all the same length. So I'm going to do that. I could do this all day and I'll never get it perfect, so I'm going to stop. Okay, so this wire's in the back. I'm going to attach this to the candy cane. So I'm going to turn this. So I'm going to put it here. So all I'm doing is taking these 2 ends, these 2 wire ends, and wrapping it around the candy cane. So the bow is resting on top of the cane. I'm going to flip it over. And here are the 2 ends, the 2 wire ends. I'm sorry if it's hard to see. The wire's green and the burlap's green. But I just take the wire and I twist it together. You could also tuck it around the wire frame to make it more secure. Or you can cut it if it's way too long. Okay. So now I can adjust a little bit more. So you decide how you want to fluff your bow. But this is a bow with 6 points and 3 tails. And like I said, anything else on the cane that you don't like, you can just adjust it. And I'm actually going to glue in maybe some gold, little gold ornaments or something like that, just to make it a little more festive. And I'm going to take a picture of the final result. But that's how I make a candy cane wreath. And just for reference, this costs about, I would say $13 to $15 to make. The candy cane wire frame is from the Dollar Tree, so that's $1. The burlap Those 2 rolls were about $9. And the bow, depending on what kind of ribbon you get, will probably cost you, I don't know, $2 to $5. Unless you don't want to make a bow and you can just buy a bow at the store, but that'll be more expensive. And the wire, like I said, you can get the wire at the dollar store. So maybe no more than 15 bucks. And then if you want to get picks and other stuff to decorate it, then it's going to cost more. So I hope this was easy to understand. Give me some feedback, but be gentle. It's my first video. Thanks for watching.